How long have you been racing? Online?
Oh, gosh, at least, 3 times now, Dylan, I've been over there? 4, something like that?
That's it? I think I could take you with the joystick.
Excuse me?
Meanwhile.
That's going to be a hard
Oh, no, I didn't even say, oh, shit! Real cars, real guys, and real talk. Live from the gearbox at Unique Classic Cars. Welcome to Motorhood. All right, back for episode 7.
7?
This is the lucky number. This is it.
Yeah, could be.
But it's not lucky for you because your Chiefs took an absolute dump on national television last night in front of the whole world. It was global.
Yeah, we used your name in vain quite a few times yesterday for a couple of reasons. Number one, your whole, it's rigged and the ref's this and rigged that. It's like, stop it. Number two, I told my wife, it's like, if I was the type of person that would do I'm going to call in sick, I would have called in sick just so I didn't have to listen to you gloat and give me shit about the game.
Well, Jay is not here today. And he's obviously works in marketing and over in our detail shop. And he just happened to have the day off. Do you think he was anticipating having to deal with this?
Well, I think either way, he was probably anticipating, having a little hangover because whether you celebrate or drown your sorrows, the net result's the same.
Right. Let me go back to your number one, the conspiracy theories. Right. I'm going to stick with that, and I think it got to such a feverish pitch that the NFL officials actually had to weigh in and call it nonsense. And I think yesterday, knowing the spotlight that was on them, they were like, Jesus, we've got to scale back.
The first 2 calls in that game, both were hideous, and I think it was one against each team. Was ridiculous.
Do you think
they were even the announcers right away, Brady and the other guy, they're like, yeah, I don't like that call. They were both terrible.
Right. It was right out of the gate, right?
Yeah.
And I think that they even have to address it. That's how much of an issue it has become, right?
Yep.
And I think the rest of the game was played fairly wide open, but like you said, the Chiefs didn't even show up.
No,
I think they were exposed.
The offensive line was exposed. That's the biggest thing. And yeah, what was the graphic? The average of the defensive line of the Eagles is like 338 pounds and like 6'6" or something like that.
Right.
Was the graphic. I'm like, oh my gosh, they're monsters.
Yeah.
And they make it work.
Big guys getting it done. There's no doubt about it. So I think if you recall the last podcast, there was a wager.
Ooh.
Does Dylan remember it?
How much was it?
It was like $20.
$20, that's right.
But we're going to put that in the kitty. We're going to put that in the kitty.
Okay.
Is what we're going to do.
Okay.
And then we're going to resume this little operation as we move along.
All right.
Because I think that you're going to wind up just giving me one of these cars. That's what's going to happen.
All right, here's what we should do then. So $20 goes in the kitty, and every time the kitty gets to 100, then it's got to get paid out.
We got to do something with it.
There you go.
maybe that could be dinner or something,
yeah,
right? But
yeah.
I think that it was a bomb. I think that it was not what people were anticipating, and I think that the run that the Chiefs had is probably coming to an end.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if Kelsey comes back. I'm going to be surprised if he does.
Are you a Kelsey fan?
When he's playing, I can do without all of his other BS that he's got going on, but, whatever. I mean, you can't take what he's done as a player, take away from him. But you could literally see, I feel like this year and even last year, man, the guy just, granted he's a tight end, but he's still, man, he looks like he's got a piano on his back when he runs. It's
I'm telling you, he wants to be more of a movie star than a football player.
Yep.
I think that was the reason he initially hooked up with T-Swizzle, I will call her. Did you see her reaction when she got booed when they showed? Because they brought the president up, place went crazy, right? Mm-hmm. Then they pan and they bring her up, and she's relentlessly being booed, and she got this look on her face, like, and you could see her mouth what is going on?
Oh, right.
Yeah,
right,
exactly.
right.
And I'm like,
Yeah.
well, there you go.
Yeah, what is going on was the phrase that every Chiefs fan. In fact, it's going to cost me. I've got a friend of mine that we bet friendly bet back and forth pretty much all season, and he takes everyone who isn't the Chiefs.
Really?
Right?
Oh, of course.
Every week takes
Of course.
everyone except that. And then, of course, including the Super Bowl, we bumped it. So it's like, okay, you know what? Big time. Let's do $100 on the Super Bowl. Okay, great. So at halftime, I start getting the text from this guy, right?
Sure.
Oh, he's sending me like the $sign emoji and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, good for you. You won one game, whatever, dude. I'll pay you.
Is he an Eagles fan?
No, he's just not a Chiefs fan, so he always takes $20 on the other team just because.
I actually have a client of mine that's from the Philadelphia area, and he was on the phone yesterday going, this is what we've been waiting for so long, right?
Right.
Because I don't think that Mahomes is as big a villain as Kelsey is right now. Mm-hmm. I really believe that. That's why I think he's done.
Hey, and maybe this is a touchy subject, but what is your take on when coaches and players and everything, they start out their interview to praise God and thank Jesus and all that kind of stuff? I am in no way, shape, or form making fun of it. But
right.
Do you think, does the public perceive that as, oh, wow, there's a Christian guy? Or do they think it's just BS and that's what it's talked about?
I think that they just say that. A lot of them, unfortunately, say that because it's become the thing to do.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
I don't think that a lot of them.
And see, that's honestly, that's what bugs me about it is if that's true and that's how they feel, that's fantastic.
Right.
But I feel like so much of it, kind of to your point, we got a rumbler going through here.
I love the sound of that motor.
Yeah. But don't use it as a cliche. That's not cool, in my opinion.
Right.
So, speaking of Jesus, I got to bring this up.
Yeah.
Speaking of Jesus, did you catch there was one of the commercials, and Johnny Cash, I'm a huge Johnny Cash fan. I don't know if that's come out on the podcast yet or not. Giant Johnny Cash fan. So right away, like the first 3 or 4 chords of this song start, I'm like, hey, and it's a Personal Jesus. That's the name of the song. And so I was like, I'm all jacked because you think about it, was it a couple of years ago, Johnny Cash, the intro to the whole Super Bowl process, I think it was Ragged Old Flag, was Johnny Cash, right? So I love that they're still incorporating Johnny into these things or whatever.
Sure.
So 2 things. So this song comes up, and I'm like, yeah, sweet. Well, what I didn't know, and George popped my bubble like a jackass this morning.
That's what I do.
He goes, oh, who did the original version? I go, what do you mean? I thought Johnny did it. And he's like, no. So I'm sitting here and I Google it. I'm like, are you kidding me? Depeche Mode?
Yeah.
Depeche Mode did this song originally. I didn't know it was a remake.
Yeah. So does that make it less manly now?
A little bit.
It ruined it for you, didn't it?
I mean, it just made me wrinkle my nose. But I mean, he redid 9 Inch Nails, of course, famously.
Yeah.
Did Hurt.
Yes.
And that doesn't bother me for some reason. But take
Depeche Mode.
Come on, man.
That's a little less down that road, right?
Yeah.
But on that note, let's talk about a car that we had in here that actually belonged to Johnny.
Yeah, we still have it.
Yeah.
We have, it's Johnny Cash's last car. And, of course, I saw it and had to have it because, again, I'm a Johnny Cash nerd. So we have Johnny Cash's last car. It's the car that he took June in her last ride, unfortunately, to the hospital and then she never came home after that. And less than a month later, he sold the car. As the story goes, his health wasn't good either at that time.
Right.
But yeah, we've got all the paperwork and everything documenting that was the car. June died in May, and John didn't even barely make it 6 months. He passed away in September.
Where is that car now?
It's in storage.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Gotcha.
But I drive it. Try to drive it a few times a year just to keep it limber and everything. But it's and there's a cassette tape in there of Johnny Cash and Willie Nelson when they did kind of the equivalent of like MTV Unplugged or whatever. So it's an acoustic thing and in the round kind of little thing they did. That cassette's in there, so it's cool. You kind of feel like you're almost one-on-one with them and listening to that tape and everything else. It's kind of fun.
It has to feel cool to sit in the driver's seat knowing that Johnny Cash sat in that driver's seat and drove that car?
Yeah, and I don't know. I mean, it's a Lincoln. It's a stretch. It's not a limo, but it's the sedan that's stretched.
Do you think he drove it, or did he have somebody?
I think he had a driver. My guess is he would have had a driver for that. But
those are the real men. Mm-hmm. Speaking of cool cars, what did you think of the halftime show? I'll tell you what, you wanted to talk about it. The first thing that stood out to me was that GNX that was on stage as soon as they pulled it up.
I couldn't believe it, and here's why. So a couple weeks ago, we had an advertising agency call and talk to one of the salespeople, because we had a 86 and an 87 Grand National. And this advertising company, they're kind of tight-lipped about it, but they were interested in it, and all they would say is that it was going to be used for a Super Bowl ad. Well, and we started negotiating, or they started negotiating rather, and okay, yep, we had a deal. Send us the paperwork. Well, by the time they got the paperwork, they said that they had gone in a different direction, and they didn't need the car anymore. Well, I think it's because this car got, committed to before they got committed to ours.
Right.
So yeah, imagine my surprise when the Super Bowl halftime shows up, and I'm like, that could have been our car on the stage, but they had already secured one. So we get calls like that quite a bit from advertising agencies, movie prop companies, that kind of thing, for all these cool cars. So it's kind of fun.
Isn't it funny that you see the trend in advertising? Pay attention to it. I tell people,
does.
I would say, they stole our idea.
Yeah, the Chevelle.
Yes, exactly. But anyways, it's funny to watch, and I told my wife yesterday, I said, pay attention to all of these ads and anything that's going on, and they are inundated with classic cars.
Right.
I mean, inundated. And it's the younger generation as well. They think those are cool cars.
Yeah, 100%.
I was having this discussion with Jason this morning, and we were talking about, he brought up some pictures of guys actually designing these amazing bodies years ago, and how they did draw them out on the wall. They're down on drafting paper and doing all that. And now with computer automation and everything, I think that's where we're losing it.
Yeah, they throw it in CAD and spin it around, and okay, go.
Makes me mad. It makes me mad. Speaking of mad, I got to bring up this road rage thing. So I'm out running a few errands in the morning. Here's me, knowing kickoff is supposed to be at 5:30.
Oh, right.
And it never usually comes till about 6.
Mm-hmm.
At 10 a.m. yesterday, I'm like, I got to get everything done. I can't miss kickoff. It's 8 hours. I live 5 minutes away from everything.
Yeah.
But I would like to make a public service announcement right out of the gate.
PSA coming.
A PSA is coming here. Roundabouts are not a 4-way stop. Does that drive you crazy?
Oh my God!
Yes. I know there's a lot of people that visit us, and this is, they're not popular in every state yet, but they're getting there. The whole idea of a roundabout is to make traffic flow more freely. Right?
Yes.
That's the idea. It is not a 4-way stop. Do not pull up, look left, look right, and then if you're clear, go. Because you're wasting your time, and more importantly, you're wasting mine.
Yeah.
Because I'm sitting behind you.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
That drives me nuts.
Oh, yeah. I the opposite of that. I'm going through the roundabout, and I'm, once you're in it, then you have the right of way. And here comes, and granted, they were probably 80-year-old, look like they were 80-plus-year-old people driving a Buick LeSabre, of course.
Yeah, it has to be.
They're rocking the stereotype.
It has to be.
And I'm kind of halfway through the roundabout, and I see him coming, and I just kind of, I'm going, I didn't kept my speed, and like this guy came, I don't know if he knew that he could even slow down. I literally thought they were going to rear end me in the middle of the roundabout because he was just on it.
Right.
I'm like, holy hell, man.
Simple traffic stuff. Another one is, do you have anybody in your family that is a back seat or passenger seat driver?
Everyone in my family, and everyone in my family.
It drives me crazy.
Everyone in my family. We had hockey this weekend, right? So I've got the kids and other people in the car and everything else, and we're on the way. We're gonna go get something to eat. We had time before the game, and we get there, and somebody made some comments about like, I feel so sick. I hope I can eat, or seasick, or whatever the comments were.
Right.
And I'm like, look, I'm at point A.
Right.
I need to get to point B.
Right.
That in between is a waste of time.
Yeah.
It drives me nuts. I want to get there as soon as I can and as efficiently as I can.
Right.
So rolling through a curve at 7 miles per hour. No. If it says speed limit 20, that's merely a suggestion. I happen to drive a vehicle that can handle it faster than that, so I'm going to.
Right.
Keep your head away from the window if you don't like it. You get a little thump here and there, maybe. I don't know. But God dang it, man! If you don't like it, get out and walk.
follow this rule when it comes to speed. Reasonable and prudent. Isn't that what they had actually on stop signs in like out west in the 60s? I think it is.
Maybe.
I've heard the old guys talk about it. They were like, that was the listing in states. I think they brought up Montana and a few of those others. And that's how, if you can handle a little faster speed, then I think that I'm capable of determining whether that's safe or not.
Yeah, one of my family is like, the only time I ever get car sick is when you're driving. I'm like, stop it.
Are you that bad of a driver?
No, I'm that good of a driver, and they're just not used to getting. This just reminded me of my mother-in-law. What she was in the back seat a while back, and we took off. We were like 15, 20 minutes into the drive, and she taps me on the shoulder. She's in the back seat, and she goes, hey, could you maybe drive like there's 70-some-year-old people in the back? I'm like, okay, I try. So all the way home, I'm like creeping up to a stop sign from a half mile away, gently accelerating, and I'm like ready to pull out what little hair I have left, because in my mind, I could have been there and gone into the next town by the time I'm rolling away from the stop sign driving that way.
Were you driving the Escalade?
Oh, yeah.
Tell people that aren't familiar with what your Escalade is, not your average Escalade.
So I'm lucky and blessed to be able to have found one of these first off and be able to have one. But so it's an Escalade V, the V series, right? So that takes a quick glance looking at the truck. Other than the V symbol on the doors, you really can't tell. So it's kind of a sleeper. That's the one first thing that's cool. Second thing, it's a supercharged 6.2. It's just under 700 horsepower, and it acts like it. It sounds like it if you want it to. The exhaust note is amazing, and it's 0 to 60 in 3 point something in a 6,000-pound SUV. I've never been able to understand how those things handle the roll center with that. Yeah, so there's a button in there. It's called V mode. And it allows you, so if you push that and you're driving it literally, the truck's got air suspension, so the whole center of gravity, the truck will lower itself, okay? How far does it drop? Oh, like 10 inches. No, I'm just kidding. A couple inches. And but you can adjust the transmission shift points, the steering sensitivity, the braking sensitivity. You can change the exhaust note if you want them all the way open so it breathes, or you can tone it down. You can literally, if you have it all the way open and you let off the gas and you're decelerating, it sounds like it's like blah, 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 popcorn maker. Right. I mean, it sounds like a hot rod coming at you, and people look and it's a new truck and they're like, what the hell is that thing? And right. So of course I love it. It's awesome. That lift up and down. It's funny you bring that up. There's a customer brought us a vehicle a while back that the techs are working on, and it's a French Citroen. Right. And I had no idea about why it was like, he's one of our techs. He's like, you want to see something cool? Goes out there, he fires it up, and the thing lifts into like an off-road mode. Right? Almost.
I'm like, are you going to take this? I think that's what it's labeled as. Right? Is that what it is?
I don't know.
You're not taking this thing off-road. Yeah, right. But it did come up about 6-7 inches. Yeah. Right? And I was like, oh, that makes no sense whatsoever.
Now, when you say 6-7, is this the 6-7 inches you tell your wife, or
4? Listen, I made this comment the other day to somebody. Mm-hmm. I said, speaking of the halftime show in the GNX last night and Buick Grand Nationals, I said, Buick proved that 6 is greater than 8.
Well said. Well said.
Can we go down that road?
Especially with a blower.
Your man tools. Okay. Let me
where the hell is this going?
Let me rephrase that. Any of your power equipment at your home, does it all have names? Your blower, your lawnmower? Mine do. I have names for every piece of equipment in my garage. And the reason I bring that up is I live in a neighborhood that has real mature trees, right? 150-year-old oak trees. So every fall, I probably get 8 inches of leaves all through my yard. So I went out and looked for the biggest backpack blower. That I'm talking volume of air that could move. And I bought that thing, and it blows like anything. And I named it Tammy.
Wow.
And people always ask me, they were like, why is your blower named Tammy? We're going to talk a little bit about FU cars today. By the way, the new GT350 for 2025 is set for production, I believe, second quarter of this year. Mm-hmm. And you know how I love Mustang Shelby GT350s. That's one of my favorite cars. over 800 horsepower. They're teaming up with Whipple again, because the one that we had in here last summer, it was the 2016, actually had that 2-stage Whipple in it.
Yeah, and that,
right?
that wouldn't have been put on by Ford, but it was after the fact. But yeah.
But I think, but to have a Whipple, don't you have to bring it to their factory? You don't have to do that?
At least not in the case of the old one you're talking about.
Oh, okay. So that wasn't put on at Whipple?
Probably not. I mean, it was put on at a performance shop, I'm sure.
Oh, no kidding. Well, anyways, they've teamed up over 800 horsepower with the GT350, and you can still get that base model that's about 480.
Oh.
But I looked at the car, and they've claimed that they have improved suspension, handling, and even more so than what we've seen in the past.
So do you think with the 800 horse version, do you suppose you could do your patented 66 miles per hour?
66 miles an hour. Okay, I want to drive one of those.
You can push it hard.
How can I talk my wife into letting me buy one of those GTRs?
Well, I would start with stop talking about Tammy. Start there.
Let's take a quick trip down the aisle.
Oh, speaking of your wife, I don't know if she watched the one. Did she appreciate your flex about the age thing here on the other episode?
I don't know if she did watch that yet.
Okay, all right.
I don't know if that's a flex. It just happens. It just happens, right?
Right.
Because for so many years, I just was like, I'm never getting married. I'm never getting married again. I'm never getting married again. And then I think you and I have both been down that road. Then you find the right one, right?
Yeah, exactly.
She could be 90. She could be 18.
Wow. What movie is that? The older I get, but I keep getting older, but they stay the same age or something like that. There's some movie line, anyways.
All right, let's take a trip down the aisle. Let's talk about some of the FU cars we have sitting in here right now.
Yeah. There's a couple of them. There's right over our shoulders, that Hellcat that just came in.
And are you? Let me ask you this, just to put you on the spot. Of all of the modern, and I'm talking 2010 and beyond.
Okay.
Which one of those is your favorite? When I'm talking Corvettes, Hellcats, Mustangs, things like that. Do you have a favorite of the new models?
That's I don't think anyone's ever asked me that before. I probably would go to a C7 Vet is probably where I would go.
Do you like those better than the 8s?
I do. I've driven last summer. I drove a C8 for a few months, and just to get to know them a little bit, and had the salesman drive it too, so they could. Yeah, I bought one for the store strictly so that we could have one in. Everybody could touch it and drive it and feel it and know what it's like and everything else, so that our team can speak intelligently on them when we get them.
Right.
So we kind of let everybody drive them and that sort of thing. And yeah, I mean the C8's it's a fantastic car, but man, I don't know, the C7. I like the looks better. It's still, the rear, obviously it's rear drive and all that, but, front engine configuration, and I don't know. It's just hard to not like that.
Well, I think with the C8s, there's a lot of guys that feel they betrayed the original look of the Corvette, right, and the original build. And they're like trying to move towards that European
very much
look with the Ferraris and stuff. But I do know guys who have them, and they say that they're super comfortable ergonomically to take long rides in and do anything else.
But the biggest gripe with the C8s is the passenger experience sucks.
Why?
Because of the way the way they've got. I mean, when you're the driver, you're surrounded. It's a cockpit, right?
Yeah.
But the passenger feels alienated because everything is tilted in towards the driver. So, whether it's a spouse or kid or buddy or whatever, you feel like you're on your own planet in the passenger seat.
Right.
That's one of the biggest gripes I've heard since day one when that car came out.
And that was
when you're the driver,
right?
It's fantastic
because it's built like a cockpit.
Yeah, right.
If you're in an airplane, right, you want all your controls.
Everything is fingertip ready.
Right.
Passenger, you're just like, it's almost like that console acts. It feels like it's a wall built up,
Right.
So that's one of the negatives that some people have said,
Right. I tell you what. The funny thing is, you bring that up because I got off Corvettes for a while. Mm-hmm. I'm also not to sound like I'm trying to butter you up, but C7s are my favorite.
What? You're just making that up.
I'm not making that up. I'm not making that up. They come through here on a regular basis.
Tell me if they didn't come out with a new body style El Camino, you wouldn't be that guy.
I might be the guy. Again, I posted that 78 that we have back there. That I sold that to a guy in Maine, loved it. He even did some modifications to it.
Right.
Sent it back because he wanted a Challenger that showed up.
Yep.
This is the hell that car guys go through. The hunt is never over.
The hunt is never over. And,
never.
And that's the best. That's, by the way, that's one of the coolest things about this hobby is that most of the time, especially in the classic cars, I mean, you can get something, and we have customers all over the place that they might have a car for 2 or 3 months. They might have it for 2 or 3 years.
Right.
And they get their fix, and maybe it's everything they dreamed of, and they got the experience, and they're happy.
Right.
Maybe they got it, and they're like, okay, well, that was fun, but I'm over it. And we get people trading cars back in all the time, and it's funny, people that aren't in the hobby, they think, oh, that guy must have traded it back in because there's something wrong with it. No, he traded it back in because he wants to play with something else.
Right. And
so, yeah, we love trading our cars back in because we know the history now. We know the story. We know the service history because we keep that on file. I mean, it's great.
Right. The one thing I hear a lot from guys is they ask me, how do these guys keep buying cars? I figured it out. If you're a collector, you're a collector. Mm-hmm. But guys who just want to have a car, once you're in. Because that vehicle that you buy, you could either bring back to us and we'll sell it on consignment for you, or you can do whatever you want with it. Yeah. Right? Yep. But you have funds to deal with right out of the gate. So all they're doing is upgrading or just moving around.
Yeah, once that initial price of admission is paid, you're it's almost like you got a lifelong membership in the motorhood because now you're in, right? And that's the other thing. One thing we do that a lot of, there's classic car. We're not the only classic car dealership, obviously.
Yeah.
But a lot of them do not take trade-ins or accept trade-ins. We do, and I try to explain to people. There's, like you say, once you get past the initial price of admission to get your first classic car. Now and whether you spend $20,000 or $10,000 or $50,000 or whatever the number is, you've got that pot of money, so to speak, right?
Right.
So now, if you want to upgrade, you don't need to write a check for $60,000, but maybe you've got your car that you've bought a year ago, and maybe you've saved up another 10. How do you How do you move up? You trade.
Right.
And that's. People ask us all the time, where do you get your cars? Is it from the auctions? It's like the auctions is the teeniest, tiniest piece of it.
Right.
Highest percentage is trade-ins, and we love that.
We do. We love it. So we're talking about FU cars. I don't know how this, because, that's just kind of the mood we were in when we came in this morning. But we do have that Hellcat. That's got a supercharged Hemi V8.
Yep. Yeah, that thing's only got 5,000 miles on it, the Hellcat.
Right.
It's still literally open the door. It smells brand new. Tags are still hanging on the seat. And that's 700 horsepower. You can have some fun with that.
Supercharged versus turbo. We were talking about this earlier this morning, but there's some guys that don't even know the difference between that. I know serious.
You were one of those guys like 4 days ago, right?
That is the honest to God truth. The serious car guys do. So I've learned this in this building. If I have a question about something like that, I'm lucky enough to have access to the guys in the shop. And Pat was explaining to me the draw because of the supercharging is actually run with power off the engine.
Right, yeah. Right. The supercharger is belt driven or pulley, yep.
So you could change the size of that pulley.
Correct. Yes.
And now you're playing with fire.
You can. Well, and in a little side note on that, we see that happen where people, whether let's just say it's a Mustang, and they take a stock GT Mustang that is 350 horse, let's say, out of the box,
right? And
they want more power, so I'm going to put a supercharger on it. Well, they do that, and maybe they put some headers on it so it can breathe better and everything else, and now it's 560 horsepower or whatever, and then they're going to program it and chip it and change the fuel system, and now it's 600 horsepower. But here's the problem: you bolt all that stuff on, and you don't do anything with the internals. So you got to remember that the connecting rods and the pistons and all the internal stuff, that's built for 350 horsepower.
Right.
And now the motor's doing 650, and then people wonder why there's engine failure. So I had that happen with a customer of mine. He bought a hopped-up Mustang, and I kind of warned him about it, and he bought it anyway because cosmetically it was everything he wanted and all this sort of thing. And I'm like, okay. I said, there's no forged internals in that car, and it's got high horsepower. You're asking for it, and unfortunately, I did not get any joy out of it, but unfortunately I was right. He had the car for not even 6 months and it blew up.
That's insane.
Yep.
So when Would they design these cars? Like, for example, I was talking about the Shelbys that are coming out this year. You can get the GT 350 base, which is 480 versus the 810 with the supercharged. Same motor, or do they do other things when they add that Whipple?
Well, it may be the same block, but then everything else is different.
And that's where you run into problems, right?
Yep.
Speaking of Mustangs, we just had a Bullet roll in.
Yeah. So it's an 08 Bullet. It's only got like 30,000 miles or something like that. And, of course, that's a tribute or a throwback to the original Bullet movie car, which was a
68.
Oh, you're so smart.
So, well, actually, we were talking about this morning, so I'm not that smart.
I'm trying to give you a pat on the back.
I know, but I'm a transparent guy. I don't know a whole lot, but I for some reason, I could not remember the year of that.
Yeah.
That's not my favorite. I actually had that discussion with a few guys online when we were talking about it a few weeks ago, and the one that stands out in my mind for movie cars is that the Challenger and Vanishing Point.
Yeah, I did add that to my need to watch movies. I've never seen that movie.
It's a cult favorite, and it's kind of weird.
Yeah,
but it's the sound of that motor.
Yeah, I know you mentioned that.
Just screaming across the desert.
Right.
All right. Also, we were just talking about this. The Corvette's coming in. We've got a 2015 3LT down there.
Yeah, and that car's only got 10,000 miles. So, I mean, and of course, she's bright red, and the thing looks fantastic. And the nice thing about that car is, again, only 10,000 miles on it, and it's not a $100,000 Corvette.
No.
I mean, it's affordable in the world of sports cars. That's a extremely affordable Corvette with hardly any miles on it.
For guys that want to dip their toes in the water, we find a lot of them that come in and they want a Corvette. I say this to people all the time. They're great cars.
Yeah.
They look cool and they handle like a dream.
Yep.
Of course you would go down that road, right?
And what's ridiculous is they're even fuel efficient. I mean, if you don't drive them like a complete a-hole, you'll get almost 30 miles to the gallon with them.
Right, and they are all of what I just said, and you can get them fairly affordable. We had a lot of nice Corvettes in here last summer that were between $20,000 and $30,000.
Yeah, right.
Some of the older models, fantastic cars.
Yeah. Speaking of
a-holes.
After the last episode, people are probably getting an idea of that there's a lot of pranking and joking and stuff that goes on around here, right? So one of those things that goes around is somehow years ago, I don't even know where it started, but there's this infatuation or prodding about cats, okay, around here, and specifically the south end of a northbound cat, okay? There's a couple of the guys over here. It started with just me and Ryan. Well, then Jay got involved and Jeff got involved, and there's other guys, whatever, and now everybody kind of knows that this it's a funny cat thing, right? Like I think it started. I was at a friend's house, and their cat. I was sitting in their garage, and their cat's rubbing on my leg. How they want to get petted, or whatever. And right as I looked down, of course, he's standing there. That's a male cat with his tail straight up in the air, back hunched, and his business is hanging out in the back. So I quick took a picture of it and I sent it to Ryan. Right, just like just no comment, no nothing, just a picture of this back end of the cat, right? Well, so now that's blossomed however many years later. We got this running cat joke thing going on all the time. So for Christmas, I got Ryan, I grabbed one of these. So I don't know if the camera can pick this up or not, but they're magnets, right? So it sticks, it's just the butt end of a cat with its tail up. So Ryan's got these on his file cabinet, right? Hey, I wonder if that'll stick here. Maybe we can put that there for the rest of the episode.
Oh my, yeah.
So we have these cat butts and things going on, and we leave little cat things. In fact, we were on the way to the Iola car show. We stopped at some roadside thing, and they had a sign there, and a little $5 sign, and it said "Check me out," MEOWT. I gave that to Ryan. He's got that hanging on his desk. So you get the gist, right?
He has a collection of cat butts.
He does. He has a collection of cat butts. So now, imagine my surprise when relatively new guy George, been here a year or so. I'm scrolling on Facebook. So because of this running joke of the cats, I've added or joined, or it shows up in my feed on Facebook, these different, like funny cat memes, or my cat, and it shows the cat jumping out the window, or any of that kind of funny stuff, right? So I'm scrolling here on Saturday, and here's this one page called, the name of the page is "My Cat's an A-Hole."
Yes,
that's the name of the page. So right away I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to get in there. I joined it, whenever, and all of a sudden I'm scrolling through, and here I had to do a double take, and because it says my cat's an a-hole, and then the person that posts in it, their name is smaller. There's George.
There's me.
Posted a picture of his two cats
of them.
in my cat's an a-hole post. I'm like, seriously, I didn't know you were into it, buddy. Tell me how you landed there.
The funny thing, these are two that I bought for my daughter a year ago for Christmas, and they've basically taken over the house. And if you know anything about cats, they're just wild beasts that live in your house. You can't train them, and they're only tolerant of you because you're bigger than they are. That is it. I had mentioned this to you earlier, but scientists believe that if cats weighed 200 pounds, they would eat their owners.
Probably
literally kill you and eat you. But on that note, I stumbled across that page, and we actually have a few guys in the building here that have cats. Jay has cats.
Jay, yep.
Dan,
yep.
Myself. You do not like cats because you don't want them in the house.
I can't. I like cats just fine. I grew up on the farm, so we had farm cats out in the barn and a dog out there,
Right.
or whatever. But the older I got, I tried doing it with my daughter too. She had a cat. She earned it, did something or whatever. And I can't stand pets in the house, man. The fur, I can't do it. I'll snap. I can't stand the fur. I don't want the piss or puke, or I don't want a freaking dog biscuit laying in the hallway. I don't. No
pets in the house. Another thing cats are really bad at is they feel like they're entitled to jumping up on the counter and the dinner table, and they get near food and they'll get into it if you don't watch them.
Oh yeah.
So it's basically like having, like I said, a wild beast living in your house.
Yeah, I can't stand that. So the cat they come out of the litter box where they just got done covering their crap and their urine.
Yes.
And then they jump up on the counter and, oh, it's so cute.
Right.
And then he steps on your silverware or steps on the plate that you're about to eat off of and, oh, it's so cute.
You're bad.
Give him a treat. No, he's got crap on his feet. Are you kidding me?
I get it. Because I grew up in the country too, and my dad was like, no cats in the house, specifically.
One meme that just popped in my head I saw on that thing here a couple weeks ago. It was just a still picture of a cat standing by a litter box, right? You know what this house needs? A box of shh.
Yeah.
Let's get a cat.
Right. That's how I wound up on that in that Facebook group. I saw a meme pop up, and it was a cat shoveling his litter out of his box, just like they occasionally do. And the caption was, because F you. That's why. That's why. I'm like, that's the attitude
that's
of
their
a cat,
attitude,
right?
Yeah, I agree.
So we're going to get together, and we're going to try some maybe some sim racing.
We're going to do that tonight,
finally?
finally?
I think Dylan and I were talking about it. So we're like, we want you to make sure that you pop in and display your skill set.
I'm just going to say that I'm certain that the boasting after tonight will happen on the next episode. So I'm just going to tell you in advance, I'm sorry.
How long?
I didn't mean to embarrass you, but it's,
How long have you been racing? Online.
Oh, gosh, at least, 3 times now, Dylan, I've been over there? 4, something like that?
That's it?
That's it.
I think I could take you with a joystick.
Excuse me?
Listen, it always goes down that road. But I was telling him because he has quite the setup, and we're going to we'll see some pictures. Oh, well, you believe you're going to die, right?
I'm sure.
We'll see some pictures because I started going down that rabbit hole, and you can get tens of thousands of dollars deep.
Oh, man.
In a hurry.
Yeah.
Right? And the great thing about that is you can just completely go to complete shit and just get right back on the track.
Also, it's right-hand drive in case you didn't notice.
Yeah. Do you think rabbits get offended by everybody uses the phrase going down the rabbit hole in a negative way? Do you think they get offended?
I don't know, but isn't that a reference to Alice in Wonderland?
Oh, wow. I don't know.
I think that's what it is.
Is it really?
Dylan's nodding his head, up and down, but I think it is because...
Guess what? I've never watched that movie.
You're kidding me.
No.
You're kidding me.
Nope.
You clearly didn't do enough drugs in college. That's... On that note, before we go, have you ever taken The Wizard of Oz? Have you heard about this with Pink Floyd's...
No.
Money? initially, when the second lion roar comes up before the Wizard of Oz starts, hit play on Money by Pink Floyd.
Okay.
And follow that through the sequence of it. It'll blow you
Shut up.
I'm not. Actually, Money kicks in when she opens the door to Oz. You start the whole CD. Dark Side of the Moon,
Yeah.
start the CD.
Okay.
Right at the very beginning. And do you tell me if there was not something those guys were doing as that movie moves along and it sequences with the movie?
How the hell did you find out about this?
Just listen, I've been just, hanging out, doing weird stuff.
Okay. No questions asked.
It will freak you out.
Really?
It's like he set that up to time it.
I'd like to see if anyone else tries that or knows what the hell he's talking about. Put it in the comments if you would, please. I'd love to see it.
Pink Floyd, Dark Side of the Moon, Wizard of Oz, the second roar of the lion. Just start, boom, right there. It'll follow. You can turn the volume down and just follow the sequence of the music through. And when she lands in Oz and she opens the door, just as she grabs the handle and pulls it open, Money kicks in and you hear that ching.
Oh my gosh!
Once you see it and you experience it,
I feel like I need to try this.
Maybe we'll have to get that done as well.
All right.
Maybe we'll have a night where we all get together and do that.
Wow, this is starting to sound like a sleepover, George. I don't know if I'm comfortable.
A pajama party? Could we have a guy's pajama party? I wanted to have one last Christmas.
By the way, pause. We need to add that to George's least masculine thing he ever says. Did he just ask me if we could have a pajama party? Really?
I'm not.
Do you want me to bring my flannel so you can feel it again?
Yes, I'm not opposed to that. Who's got the right fabric?
Oh, boy, it's all about the fabric.
All right, so we'll have an update on sim racing, and maybe Jay can come in, and we'll get him at some point because he's got to settle down.
Yeah,
right?
we got to let the. Yeah, he's got to get his equilibrium back.
He's the Chiefs fan, and we'll give him a chance to come up here and defend himself.
Yeah, right.
So, when in doubt,
gas it.
There you go.
Hey, George, when in doubt.
When in doubt, gas it.
Watch out for that ghost up there.
This guy, my head is like.
I think you broke George. I think you broke
I
him.
threw him from flat screen to VR, which is kind of a jump. It's a little bit of a jump, especially with the wheel and pedals. It's pretty cool.